everyone, and welcome back to my channel where I make videos super inconsistently. It is what it is. I honestly suck at this, so yeah. For those of you that are watching who are mostly just my friends and my fam, thanks for the support and dealing with my inconsistency. But I am actually starting to wrap up my Peace Corps service here in Ukraine, and I just started thinking about what these past 2 years have been for me and what it means to me to have been able to be on this journey. So as I was kind of reflecting, I started thinking about what are some tips that I wish that I knew when I started this journey that might have made this journey a little bit easier for me. So if you're interested in that, just keep on watching. Try to limit your judgment and be open to all experiences. The reality is that Ukraine is another country, it's another culture, it operates very differently, and but yet in some ways very similar to back in the United States, which I think is what makes Ukraine very unique and sometimes very difficult to manage, because on the outside it does kind of seem like Ukraine and America have a lot of cultural similarities, but then when you go deep inside and understand Ukrainian culture, you can definitely see the differences. And my biggest piece of advice is just really try to be open to all experiences. You know, one thing that I think is really important is that you don't have to say yes to everything that everyone is offering for you to do. Like, that's how you get burnout. But I also would be cautious about what you reject and what you accept, and just kind of be aware of what that will do for you and create that balance and harmony in your life. Because sometimes when you first get to site, everyone wants to invite you over for tea and coffee, and you know, your counterpart will want you to rest every 5 minutes because she's just worried of over exhausting you. So just, you know, find that balance for you and understand that they really do have good intentions, but you might be the first American that they will ever meet, and they want to know about you. They want to know about you. They want to know about America. They want to start working with you, especially like your counterparts and your host family will just want to get to know you a lot. So figure out what's that balance for you where you can still integrate in your community, but also have that downtime to recharge and get ready for this next chapter of your life, because it's a journey, man. It really is. The next thing is be patient, not only with yourself, but with your community and with your counterpart. Kind of like I was saying to the first point, is that Ukraine is a different culture and everything moves super slowly here. So if you're used to American life, and I'm from the East Coast where it's just like boom, 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 like you have to, like if you're not have a plan, or if you're not running in a direction, then it's kind of looked down upon. Whereas like here in Ukraine, it's not like that. You know, really take the time to smell the roses and learn to appreciate the process, not just the result. That's one thing that really helped change my mind frame from, man, everything's moving super slowly, to what are the lessons here that I can learn, that I think I need to learn in my personal life, and not even just that, but also my professional life, of how to navigate other cultures, because sometimes it is really frustrating. But be patient, because change takes time. Change is like planting a tree. It's not just going to grow overnight. It needs time to develop and to foster. So understand that when you are in your communities on your first day and you're like, I'm ready to go to work, and your counterpart will be like, no, please, let's rest. You know, it just is a cultural thing, and it's beautiful, I think. And then the other thing, kind of like I said in the beginning, is be patient with yourself. Ukrainian is such a hard language. It has like 6 different grammar points. Things are constantly changing, whether that be the endings or, you know, just how you're talking, and there's a lot of exceptions to the rules. So the moment you think that you're like, yes, got it, genitive case down, no problems, and then boom, everything's messed up and you're like, I don't understand it anymore. That happens to me on a regular basis. The third point, which I think is the most important thing, and I think if I really would have understood this a little bit more, it would have made my down days less down, is understanding the 3 goals of Peace Corps, right? And I know that sounds super basic. Like the first one is like share American culture with Ukrainians. The other thing is like share Ukrainian culture with Americans. And then the third one is like your actual work, what your job description is, you know, just in super condensed terms. But understanding that when you're having tea with your counterparts at school and eating cake and just talking, that is just as much of what you're supposed to be doing here as all the projects that you're trying to instill in your school. You know, because like I said, change does take time, and sometimes it does get really frustrating where you're like, wow, I just want to do this project and no one's helping me, or like I really want to you know, write this grant, but it's taking forever because we can't talk about it or we can't navigate the system together. And sometimes, you know, it can get, like, at least for me, I knew that I would really beat myself up sometimes and feel like, wow, I'm not a good volunteer, I'm not doing enough, I'm not you know, being successful, I'm not doing enough work, you know. And I think that really stems from being, at least for me, it stems from our life in America, and it is a very capitalist society, and it's very productive driven. And so that was a really hard lesson for me to learn, is that my productivity does not equal my worth. And it's something that really was challenged here for me. And sometimes I would just have to check myself and be like, you're doing things, because having tea with your coworkers or playing a game of soccer with kids is just as much your job as it is the actual work that you're doing, because you have to understand that you might be the only American that your community will ever meet. And, you know, this really is like soft skills diplomacy. Like, you're teaching them about American culture and they're teaching you about Ukrainian culture. And you guys are just coming to this beautiful understanding of each other and understanding that that is just as much your work as the projects that you're doing. And I think if I would have learned that in the beginning, it really would have made my service a little bit easier. And it's something that no one said to me when I started. So I had this feeling where like I wasn't a good volunteer because I wasn't productive as I wanted to be productive. So I really hope that you guys really take this one to heart and really understand that when you get to site and you're having tea or drinking coffee or playing soccer or doing English clubs, that those are all work, and it's okay if you're not super busy. You're still doing Peace Corps and you're still doing amazing, sweeties. So yes. The next one I think is really just important for your mental health is try to find a way to be your true and authentic self in this culture in a way that feels right for you. And I say that because when we move to our sites and when we move to our communities, we kind of want to be accepted, right? So we want to adapt certain aspects of ourselves to be accepted into Ukrainian culture. But it's also really important to find that balance. What feels right for you? And one example that I like to say is I'm a very like smiley, happy person. And here in my village, you will barely see any people like smile at each other unless it's like children when they're really happy. But for me, like it's who I am, and I don't want to change that part of me because it's something that I really enjoy about myself. So when I'm, walking on the street and saying Добрий День to people, I will smile at them. And yes, it does get really weird looks sometimes, but also it's who I am and I'm not going to change it. And it's something that initially was kind of met with, why is she smiling? Like, that's so weird. To now everyone calls me Sonichka, which means like little sunshine, because I am just so happy and positive, and I try to push that, or not kind of push, but try to influence that into my children and into my coworkers at school, because I just want them to see that life can be happy and I'm happy, and I want it to be infectious. And it is okay to quit. It is okay to eat tea. It's okay to leave, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. Peace Corps is honestly for certain kinds of people. It's not everyone can do the Peace Corps. Not everyone can go and give up their life in America for 2 years to go live in another country. Not everyone can deal with the small, like, cultural things that are just blaringly too much for you. You know, whatever that means for you. And it's okay. And, you know, it's one thing that my mom said to me before I left is that Peace Corps is not the military and it's not prison. So you can leave whenever you want, and that's completely okay. One thing that I would just think about before, if you're thinking about ETing, is really consider why you're ETing. Try to understand, like, is it a bad day or are you just completely over it here? Because we all have bad days where we're just like, that's it, get me on a plane, I'm done, like, I don't want to do this anymore. And that's okay, but maybe you're making a rash decision. And, you know, really kind of consider the reasons why you want to quit and why you want to leave. And if you do want to leave, that's completely okay. There's this weird connotation where if you ET, like, people look down on you like, wow, they quit, like, you know, whatever. But honestly, you got to do what's best for you. You got to do what's best for your mental health. You got to do what's best for, you know, your self-interest. And if that means leaving, that's 100% okay. And do not feel ashamed of that. It happens, and that's okay. In the end, все буде добре. It's a phrase that's very popular here that can both be encouraging and extremely frustrating when you're stressed about a project and your counterpart just keeps telling you, все буде добре, and you're just like, it won't be okay, I promise, because we need to do this now, you know. But for me, все буде добре is more than just a phrase. It's a way to look at the world. And for me, it's been so meaningful because when I am having those rough days, or when I am, you know, just feeling like I'm not making a difference, feeling like I'm not doing enough, you know, I do talk to, like, my host family, and I do talk to, like, my counterparts, and I tell them about, like, how I feel and what's going on. And just for them to say, like, все bude добре is just a way for them to support you in a way that they're telling you that, like, or trying to show you what's important in life and what's not. And that for me has been one of the biggest life lessons that I've learned here in Ukraine, is really truly realizing what's really important, what's worth getting upset over, and what's not. You know, I remember the one time I was just so frustrated with a grant project that we were doing. It just wasn't turning out the way that it was supposed to, and I just, like, cried to my counterpart, and I was like, I don't want to get in trouble with Peace Corps. Like, I just want to do, you know, everything that we said we were going to do, and I'm just so frustrated and I feel stressed and, like, I don't know what to do. And my counterpart was just there, like, just, you know, telling me that everything is going to be okay and that it's not worth getting upset over. And it's like, we will handle it. We will do it together. And it really just kind of really helped me put things in perspective and understand that while you're here in Ukraine, life can be really challenging. You know, I live in a village of 3,000 people, so there's nothing to do here, like, at all. Like, there's no cafes, like, there's nothing. Like, if I want to do something exciting, I pop in some podcasts and I go for a walk. Like, whoo, really exciting life, right? But, like, understanding that, like, sometimes you'll have down days. Sometimes things will be really good. Sometimes, you know, it won't be perfectly the way that you envisioned, but everything in the end will be okay. And like I said, if that means leaving is okay. If that means staying and figuring out how to navigate your life here, it'll be okay. So take a deep breath and really just learn to appreciate the process and figuring out what feels right for you. And if that is this process, if that is going home, whatever that means, it'll be okay in the end. So, все буде добре. Thank you for watching this video. I hope it was helpful, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.